What up? The U.S. Senator wants a national THC DUI standard, and more will be covered in the news summary. State title. State. I'm reading the goddamn thing. Let us know what you think in the comments and tag someone who wants to open a cannabis business so we can help more people realize the dream of being a cannabis license holder. And the lead story: U.S. Senator calls for national THC DUI standard, but more on that in the news summary. Hey, let's get this thing going, man. So I got a script, and it says a U.S. Senator wants a national THC DUI standard and more. And then it says state title, the title of the show, and I didn't even see the title of the show. So hey, thanks for joining us, and Tom. It's Wednesday. We're here. It's 12 o'clock. Like and subscribe. Give us some love if you want to change the world. You know what's up, Tom?
Oh, I tell you what, those stage directions are always the best. And so, yeah, the news summary, we do have something to discuss about a senator that's proposing a nationwide THC DUI limit. There's also an op-ed from MJ BizCon that says limiting marijuana licenses only benefits multi-state operators. MedMen has given up control of its New York medical operations. Iowa Democrats have announced a plan to legalize it, and a Denver hotel to open a cannabis lounge next year. Ohio cannabis activists are going to force a legislative debate because they have enough signatures, and AOC has called on Joe Biden to use his executive powers on cannabis and more. And that's our news summary. Let's go to the lead story of the week, of the day.
Of the day.
Yep.
Senator calls for federal marijuana standards to measure impaired driving. So there's always got to be a boogeyman.
So I always got to be a boogeyman, but I see like a silver lining in this. But anyway, it's Senator John Hickenlooper, a Democrat out of Colorado, and he spoke about these issues last week during a Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee confirmation hearing for President Joe Biden's nominee to serve as director of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That is the NHTSA. And in any case, go ahead.
I was just saying, Hickenlooper, for a state that was one of the first ones, they were the second, actually. Washington was the first, but for one of the first ones to first do recreational, he was actually against it. He was against and expected all this like drama that most prohibitionists already expect. And because that's not the truth, I just think it's funny now he wants to get the DUI cause going. Like, he stated because of the recent signing within the infrastructure bill that contained an amendment he sponsored requiring federal agencies, including the Department of Transportation, to study and issue a report on federal regulatory barriers related to studies on marijuana impaired driving. This is the bill is assigned, but you got to create the infrastructure. You got to create the labs testing, the studies to be done. Who's going to do the studies?
Yeah, this is what I think the upside of a nationwide THC DUI limit would be. CDL drivers right now, they're under a zero tolerance policy. If there was a tolerance policy at a particular limit, everybody who's driving over the road right now would be able to have a safer alternative substance than the substances that many of those people are forced to turn to. Like when they go to the truck stop, there's booze, there's caffeine, there's donuts and other junk food, and maybe gambling. But is there any good, wholesome THC? No.
Well, we're also talking about impairment here. So we're talking about like how much cannabis do you have to consume before you're like, I can't handle behind the wheel, right? Because again, drinking, as we know, as society has already worked around with, we're like, give me your keys or whatever. But most people don't make coherent, proper decisions when they've had too much imbibement of alcohol. Whereas cannabis, it's a blanket and Led Zeppelin.
Usually, yeah, but like with too much cannabis, you're usually like really, really high, and you're like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, let's have another round. Come on.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, and then with cannabis too, they have to analyze because we're what they're looking for is the piss test. They're looking for how can we prove impairment once you pee in a cup or draw your blood samples, just like with DUI, which is
like it's over the line, and so that's one of So if you have like it's just extreme tolerance to alcohol, if this is like the 50s or something, and so like the only thing that you had to do back then was to drink and hate communists. And so that person's 0.8 or 0.08 must be extremely different than somebody else who's more of a teetotaler of these days. That 0.08 might get them really fuzzy and buzzed. And so it doesn't take into account any type of tolerance at all. But Congress draws lines. That's what they do. They set bars, they draw lines, they make standardizations, they put regulations in there. If the regulation is dependent on your tolerance, how do we measure and quantify that?
Well, we're also talking about the same body of legislation that define cannabis versus hemp, right? It's because it's the same plant. It just what defines it is this arbitrary 0.3% THC, you know, and that's ridiculous. You know, it's like we can't treat the rest of society as adults. We can't treat each other.
So as Hickenlooper though was asking this guy, you know, he's asking him, and his name's Steve Cliff, and he would be committed to working with lawmakers to develop a federal marijuana impaired driving standard so we can have something as a national standard. And that's what Hickenlooper asked of Mr. Cliff. And Mr. Cliff responded, absolutely. If I'm confirmed, I look forward to working with this committee on impaired driving, and in particular, that marijuana issue that you just mentioned. And so Hickenlooper retorts, he didn't say that's good. He retorted, it's one of those things that it's not going away. It's coming. And I think we need to address it and get out ahead of it as quickly as we can. So can we get some of that money to study that, maybe in like Colorado or another state, and figure out how much cannabis you have to give these people and where their nanoliters have to be? But then it would also be like, what if the sobriety test took into consideration, like, what is your standard usage pattern? Are you a medical patient? You know, and so if you're a medical patient, you could have one level, and if you're a recreational user, you could have a lower level. You know,
well, you know, also you take in consideration body fat. You know, because the fat cells absorb and cannabis, and your endocannabinoid system just loves all the cannabinoids in cannabis. So
but we're smart. We can make algorithms. And so if you study it really well and you get 5,000 people to all smoke a bunch of weed and then put them into a driving simulator or make sure that it's safe, whatever, and then get some statistics on this, bro. What the hell? Well, 2022.
Here's the problem. We got like comments like this. Do you want truck drivers high? That's the same. And then, excuse me, for lack of a word,
saying they're not.
Well, not just that. Like, you know, like, do you want your surgeons high? Your pilots high? You know what? And again, it's all about responsible use.
Yeah, we're not talking about on the clock. You know,
accountability. It comes down to the end person. Like, are you doing your job right? Because I mean, that's what it comes down to. You know. Opioids is a real addiction, right? You're going to do that whether you should be doing surgery or not.
Yeah. You will seek that behavior out to your detriment, and like people will lose their lives.
I want the person who's going to be doing the hard job around me to be well rested and have a decent life and not be stressed.
But that's the exact opposite story of the opioid crisis and the Purdue Pharmaceuticals with OxyContin. The opposite story of that is the medical cannabis movement, where you have people having stories about how this plant has saved their lives, how this plant has gotten them to make a better decision and path in their life, and so they aren't gone now. Why isn't that, studied? How come that's not a particular type of course of treatment when people are fraught with illness of addiction?
Why can't the plant be a first option? You know, in the same article, they go on to about another study that found that smoking CBD-rich marijuana has no significant impact on driving ability, despite the fact that all study participants exceeded a per se limit for THC in their blood. This is the thing that's going to, like, everybody will be like, well, if marijuana is really not so bad, it would be legal. Well,
that's not even close to being accurate. One of the reasons why it is illegal is because it was good for you. If it was bad for you, then you wouldn't need a problem that we can solve for $4.99 a month for the next 4,000 years.
But again, America had separate drinking water fountains. We had separate, like, they didn't make it right at the time.
We couldn't get a mortgage until the late 70s.
Seriously. I mean, there's so many rights that have just been enabled within our lifetime. What you mean that thing called marriage, gay marriage just happened? I mean, there is so much shit that is not right that has exist, doesn't make it right. And then when they find these studies, that's the thing about like impairment is, with that what was that 800-pound brownie? Mm-hmm. Like, is that the level of like, because 5 nanograms right now, dude, I fart 5 nanograms.
Yeah, but that's what they discussed actually in there. Hickenlooper continued on his quotes. We haven't seen any of that, but we do recognize that we don't have a good way to measure intoxication level. Under Colorado law, a person found to be driving with more than 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood can be used as evidence of impairment. But this is the policy that's faced a lot of criticism, as it's just an arbitrary number, just kind of like the 0.3% THC is an arbitrary number, but suddenly it defines hemp. You see, Congress loves arbitrary numbers like this, which should kind of terrify you about how they might be regulating the THC limit. But they regulate the blood alcohol limit, and they've used that to get public funding for roads. And I think that's one of the reasons why now it's 0.08. And when I was 20 years ago, when I was becoming of age and I can go to bars, I think it was 0.1. And then in Europe, it's like down to like 0.05 or something.
Well, you know, with the 5 nanogram BS, to take into consideration how we talked about, like, I think they also have to consider means of ingestion, right? Like, was this person dabbing versus smoking flower versus an edible? I mean, there's too many factors, and that's going to be part of the problem with, like, how do we, you know, they're trying to justify how to arrest somebody. Like, how do we find you the culprit? How do we find? Well, how are you doing it now? Mm-hmm. How are you singling out and prosecuting all these rampant cannabis cases of drivers out there? Because that's how you should be doing it. And that's just my point being is, and then this is not advice to anybody, but for me, smoking and driving, the hardest thing's packing a bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do not recommend any of those things. But then, you know, people break the law, and they've been breaking the law since we started passing them. Some people are just going to break that law. Those people need to be identified and tracked. Okay, fine. I might want to walk that back a little bit. This is America, not communist China, which is another reason why I'm not on TikTok. That freaks me out, that you guys, so many people are just willfully giving all their stuff straight to the Chinese government. Go for it. Have fun, guys. For likes. And, you know, did you see that? It was exciting when you watched that reel. That was 30 seconds long, and it kind of made you laugh.
You know, I do enjoy watching TikTok. I just don't get using it, and I tried and I failed, and I just don't care.
Yeah. A lot of people just don't care. So what do people think about the THC limit as a national standard for driving? Leave your comments in the comments section. Tag somebody who you think really just gets pissed off at this, because it's one of those inflammatory aspects of putting a line in the sand, and people are going to get screwed over arbitrarily. But then once they have that line in the sand, you know, it would allow for other companies that have a zero tolerance policy on cannabis to, you know, use it when they're off the clock. I think it would be great if truckers could get done with their shipment, and then they're not working tomorrow, and they can go get high. Why can't they? You know,
even if they were getting working the next day, you know, that's the thing. We talk
next
about
day
the cannabis experience and the word high, right? Like it's a wellness issue, it's a balance issue, it's an intoxicant definition issue, right? Like how, as you and I, like we talked about, you smoke too much, like whether you do a dab or whether you smoke too much flower, and you're just like, whoa, I'm good right now, I will take a minute, and then your body acclimates, whatever that rush or however you want to describe that experience, that euphoria is gone within, you know, 20-30 minutes, and you still feel sedate and good to go for the rest of your evening or day, whatever moment you're at consuming. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to think that we're going to find all these bad people and arrest them spontaneously just because we now have a law that says this is what caused all this messed up shit.
But then that would be the first federal regulation that makes sense on this stuff, except for the goddamn IRC 280E. Hey, somebody has a question. And if we were going to answer this, we'd be like, hey, look, a member has a question. So if you guys want to become a member of the channel, please do. That's how we'll, you know, give you shouts out and also answer your questions. But if weed is legal, how can they use that as a reason to search your vehicle? And what would the national THC standard for a DUI mean? These are all questions that are hypothetical and conjecture. That's the clear answer, hypothetical and conjecture, because we don't have them yet. But in the answer to when it becomes legal, very often odor in the car no longer becomes probable cause for a search.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, when you say the word legal, it's not federally legal, so it's still leveraged no matter what. Even in prohibition states, it's a reason to search your vehicle. Maybe you have too much. Maybe you're transporting.
But then odor, like how can can you smell the difference between an ounce and a pound?
No, but you know, well, I mean, yeah, you can kind of, but when I drove past Low Cannon, I smelled goddamn. There must have been hundreds of pounds in that building, but I mean, yeah, you can tell if something's in the area. I mean, obviously, amount of an odor is a thing, but
shout out to member Robin Thomas. It says,
hey,
in New York, no cause to search where the odor is present. See, one of those states that has adopted that because it's what you want to do. Like when it becomes legal, you don't want that to be something and a reason for you to search because it's legal, man.
and again, oh, there we go.
It's
Smoking
20 past the hour. All right. And that's collateral based. It's where I work. Collateralbase.com's all right. It looks like just a fairly stodgy lawyer's page. Go to cannabisindustrylawyer.com, and that's where you can get all the real good stuff. Got some new updates coming for our conditional application in New Jersey. And then we have this real sweet product that we'll be offering to the good people of New Jersey. It's a super easy to use chart that allows you to spin up the documents that you need for your conversion application quickly.
Right
Maybe
on.
I'll do that as a webinar or as a video on here on the how-to section, like how to convert your conditional license to a annual license in New Jersey. If you guys want that, in the comments, and then of course smashing them likes, smashing them, because that's what you do with likes. We can't count the negatives anymore, but you still can count the negatives on the back end.
I haven't seen that analytics. Like I've been trying to, I looked in their little studio thing. I don't see that negative analytics, which I mean, whatever. But I think it was a dumb move on YouTube's part. But hey, also for marijuana moment, we got AOC news. AOC calls on Biden to use executive authority on marijuana policy as president's agenda stalls in Congress.
Yep, and I actually have the link to the tweet that they are using as a site. Isn't that interesting? News articles in 2021, they're based on tweets. And in fact, they're based on this particular tweet right here that came from a couple of days ago.
Well, I mean, that's the new world, right? Like somebody gets a message out in a matter of minutes, seconds, you can hit whatever following.
She's got 13 million followers. And so she tweets, Biden needs to lean in on his executive authority now, not later, but now. He has been delaying and underutilizing it so far. Thank you very much on your judgment and appraisal there. There is an enormous amount he can do on climate, student debt, immigration, cannabis, healthcare, and more. Yep.
And I gotta say though, we're gonna get heat. People like want to do this whole kid pretend Biden's name is Brandon, whatever dumb shit.
Oh, but yeah, that's funny. But then we aren't political. We are nonpartisan.
Exactly. But the thing is, though, like people don't look at still the parliamentary procedure. Like Biden's actually like handling it. Like he got this infrastructure bill signed, which got the marijuana, for the DUI testing rider on side of it. They're still having a problem for whatever reason trying to pass bridges. We can send $500 million to Israel for no reason, but God forbid we take care of like our infrastructure.
Infrastructure is exceedingly important. Infrastructure is national defense, in my opinion. If you have great infrastructure like fiber internet and amazing roads, you're going to have such commerce in the streets. But then our supply chain issues still have to do with like too many OEMs in China. If we had OEMs in America, but until we have 3D printing technology and it's cheap, renewable source of carbon, this is like a 2032 problem. It's just not feasible yet.
Also, in that supply chain issue that you mentioned, dude, I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but during the beginning of pandemic, when there was definitely a stall, 56% of truck drivers failed drug testing for cannabis. Like 56%, over half.
Mm-hmm.
If we had
now, not later, right now. Yeah,
they lost their jobs because they didn't have one at the moment. They were not driving at the moment, so they were just trying to.
But then a national standard, because it's presence alone, and so if there was a national standard, 50 nanograms, let's do 10x of what Denver's is or Colorado's is. But then how do you simulate like the nanogram level of the blood? That would be very, very difficult to create a test for creating a national standard for a THC DUI, because you would need to like correlate that. Be like, here's what 1 nanogram does. Here's what 5 nanogram does. Here's what 10 nanogram does. And then, you'd have to try to figure out how you can dial in a sweet spot where that would work for 55, 70% of people,
Well, I was saying we're trying to hunt down this bullshit cause and effect. Whereas, like, do you ever like?
Yeah, but I'm serious that if you're really, really high, you're probably going to be a danger behind the wheel.
Well, yeah, no, I think at that point though, you're not going to be going behind the wheel just because.
Right.
What is really, really high? Really, really high means I want to take
that might be like 50 nanoliters. I mean, it would be really interesting to see like what it's flowing through, but we don't have that. We don't have nanobots like swimming through our blood vessels, like saying here's his exact grams of cannabinoids that are floating around in there.
Well, again, we're talking about nanograms when your consumption of flower is per the gram. So it's like just itty bitty just bullshit number that they. And again, like I said, like I sweat 5 nanograms, dude. Like it's ridiculous. But and there's some positive news though. In more Biden pressure, the Office of Lawyer, what is it called? The Justice Department had reversed a course in legal analysis that could allow thousands of people released from prison at the start of the pandemic to remain free once the coronavirus emergency ends. The Office of Legal Counsel. So Attorney Merrick asked the LLC to reconsider, but they issued a statement saying prisoners sent to home confinement because of the pandemic might remain free. There's a lot of cannabis prisoners that benefited from this, and so
that's great. How many?
As far as I know one for one, Diana Marquez, and there's a couple other ones too.
Somebody from the Last Prisoner Project emailed me through my normal legal consults or whatever, the NLC, yesterday, and I didn't respond to him. I was gonna be like, oh damn, and so like I got to respond to that person and like be like, hey, how are you getting those people out of prison? Not only that, how are you taking care of them when they get out of prison? It'd be great. Like you, in theory, I'm pretty sure if you can show me your conviction for cannabis, you are a social equity applicant in New Jersey.
I still got my my receipt. I did community service to wash it away.
No, did you ever live in New Jersey?
Yeah, a long time ago. Well, I did high school in Jersey.
Okay, that's great. We'll put that in on your executive summary when we apply for your cannabis license in New Jersey. Would you like to grow, process, or I'm going to say process? We'll have the easiest time getting that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because as long as the growers are, people are hustling, but
people are just gonna. It's the least. So like the 3 things that you have to know when you're trying to get into the game. Most people want to get into a dispensary, so it's got the longest odds, and then everybody else wants to grow, so it's still got long odds, but not as long as a dispensary. And then very few people even look at processing.
Fun story. When I used to be a flower pharmacist dealer, Jersey was one of the places where I used to predominantly I was paying rent. I was able to pay rent, and the guy I was getting my stuff from was getting the guy from Florida. But what they would do is he was a manager of a furniture store, and they would get shipments from Oregon of furniture, but it'd be like mushrooms and weed. Yeah, Oregon's always been a source for the best cannabis, I think, at least during my lifetime. It's always been Northwest cannabis has always been primo.
Well, they have the privacy to grow it, and they also have the the wonderful climate. But in Ohio news, Ohio marijuana activists have submitted signatures to force their legislature to consider cannabis legalization. Reported out of Marijuana Moment on December 20th of 2021.
Yay! So the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol submitted 206,943 signatures to the Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, on Monday for a bill that would allow adults to buy and possess marijuana.
Woo!
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
If you like that, you know what to do.
Smash it.
Like, tag somebody and say like, hey, man, you're in Ohio, right? Let's get a dispo in Ohio.
Dude, the proposed law will allow Ohioans age 21 and older to buy and possess 2.5 ounces of cannabis and 15 grams of concentrate. That's a lot of concentrate.
It is, because most of the vapes that they'll be selling, and that they probably are selling currently in Ohio medical cannabis dispensaries, are about a half a gram or a third of a gram. That's it. 1 gram vape cart for the regulated cannabis market. Like I don't think I can go buy a 1 gram vape cart in Illinois.
Well, and you're gonna find that the consumer changes too. So like I've gone through my stages of vaping. Like you got the little pre-made pens for like whatever for a gram, half gram, but also you carry your little and essentially what a dab is just the concentrate placed on the heating element, something that just gets hot. So you got these little handheld little chingaderas that you can scoop your little concentrate in and put a little bit in and just smoke as you go. And it's a nice on the go type little experience if you're on the road or whatever. I don't do any of that really as much anymore. I'm still a flower guy. So
oh yeah, and then I've become pretty much a flower homegrown guy. The price of an eighth up here, and so you can see $80 eighths. I saw one. I saw an $80 eighth with 10% off. It was $72.
Not for the patients, dude.
That's rec price, but that is. I mean, because my bro's coming in from Florida, so he's like going, "Hey, who's got the beverages?" And I'm like, I haven't seen them, and so like Canna is one of the names of the beverages. It's like 12 ounces. No, I haven't seen it. We just have like these bullshit 4-ounce little elixirs or tonics, they're called. They taste very bad, and it's just not a good experience. So but then we have like Lagunitas Brewery in Illinois. Why doesn't Lagunitas Brewery have its infuser license so it can make a 12-ounce product? Probably because of regulation. Same reason we don't have ice cream regulation.
Well, Lagunitas got their hand in the California market. I don't think it's so much regulation, but yet Lagunitas just didn't get a chance, right? Like, because it's still shady as F. How you guys? I think the Lagunitas type style of business is still they're owned by they're one of those breweries that are owned by the people that work there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're just not shady as that's all.
So what types of stuff is going to go on in this Ohio thing? The Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Tobacco, as they turned in all those petitions, they needed to collect 132,887 valid signatures from registered voters for the statutory initiative during this first phase of the effort. If the required signatures are verified by county officials, the legislature will have 4 months to adopt the measure, reject it, or adopt an amended version. If lawmakers do not pass the proposal, organizers will need to collect an additional 132,887 signatures to take place before the voters on the ballot in November of 2022. So hopefully, as this coalition, and it would be very interesting to see the uptake methodology that they were using for it, mostly because like when you are turning in a petition, it's like any other highly regulated thing. So you have to do it according to their particular rules, otherwise they'll kick it out. But you're also harvesting 206,943 emails. And if you have those email addresses and then you have to go to the next round, it would be so nice just to be like, send everybody an email. But of course, then they probably would have to have a very specific form that complies. Sometimes those forms have to be printed out and they have to be wet ink, all that type of stuff at a county level like that. I mean, they make them jump through these hoops of compliance, knowing that it's just freaking impossible or more difficult.
More difficult. And then that's why there's so many groups, I think, trying in Ohio, between this one was being regulate like alcohol. There's also normal Appalachia that's there. Our friend Michael Willett, they're doing it county by county as they're trying to tackle it. So I think in Ohio, if you live in Ohio, hell, if you live in America, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, register to vote, goddammit. If you're 18 plus, this is how you get your voice heard, whether you be gerrymandered or whatnot.
Run for office, register to vote and then go run for something. Says the guy who's never run for nothing. But I am an elected official at the county level. I'm sorry, the township level. I am township trustee.
But it's just surprising the weight of just being a registered voter has of your voice, right? Because it's like when people say like, "Oh, I don't want to hear about you bitching about like the rules," because unless you've spoken up or done a thing like the registering to vote is actually a very fundamental thing that we can do to change the conversation. As messed up as it all is. We literally got democracy just broken last year. Like
coming up on a 1-year anniversary of that, and to celebrate, I think we should do something to make it a little bit more chill and relaxed up in here. So name that strain.
What we got going on?
That one.
Scratch Sniff.
Scratch and Sniff. Shout out to Zen Burnings, Logan from the Ganjier course, and this is one of his selections. If you guys would be so kind, by the way, we need more of our Name That Strain images, and so you can find me that's my .com, but then if you go to @Cannabis Industry Lawyer on IG, you could send me some shots of some nugs, tell me what it is. Give me the approval to go ahead and make it into one of these things, and then we can play some Name That Strain.
So is this indica or sativa?
This is definitely an indica. This is definitely an indica, and it is by Ocean Grown Seeds. Lineage goes back to Mendo Purps. So those are some good hints that are going on in there.
Hey, and yeah, let's give a little moment to check it out. Take some guesses.
Sure. Take some guesses on the name that strain.
I was going to touch base on Iowa.
Why don't you talk about Iowa? I'll just kind of watch and see if anybody comes in with the right guess.
Oh, here you go. Wait. I didn't know Iowa was doing a thing.
Iowa's doing a thing. Iowa senators are working to legalize marijuana in the state constitution.
That's huge.
Yes.
So, three Democratic state senators said Tuesday they plan to propose a constitutional amendment that would legalize the sale of recreational marijuana in Iowa for people ages 21 and older. Marijuana prohibition has been costly failure, says Senator Joe Bolcom, Democrat, Iowa City. It's ending across America because it's caused far more harm than good. Thank God, he said. Yep. I mean, go ahead.
He's joined by Janet Peterson and Sarah Garrett, and they unveiled this plan during a virtual briefing emphasizing that since conventional legislative measures to end prohibition have so far stalled in the state, a new approach is required to give the people what they want.
Such amendments require passage by two successive General Assemblies, which means a state election must take place between the first and second approvals by legislators and a final approval by Iowa voters. Oh, that's crazy. So you have to go through 2 rounds of state legislatures? Wow.
Yeah.
They do make it harder than it has to be.
They do make it harder than it has to be. The closest that I have seen so far has to do with one of these. And this is a Granddaddy Purple guess. While that is not quite right, I'm sorry. It's not the Granddaddy Purple. It is related to a purple Urkel. Again, it is an ocean-grown seed, and it's close to a purple Urkel. That's one of its parents in the lineage.
Lots of good guesses, though. Let's scroll through.
Mendo breath it's got lineage of Mendo breath, yeah, but like not Yoda soda is close because it's from Star Wars, and so it's got a Star Warsy name as well.
Oh, right on.
Right on.
Wait, I thought I saw somebody in there.
No, I don't think anybody said it just yet.
What about this one? Is it that?
Ocean grown is Vader OG. Right. Yeah. And so it's a Vader OG thing. It's a Jawa juice. That's what it was. Jawa juice. And so is it up? Let's show them. Yeah, that is Jawa juice with lineage derived from legendary Mendo Purps of the Emerald Triangle region. Purple Urkel is a well-known hybrid with roots dating back to the 1990s. And it's known for its ideal growth habit and visual and stunning harvests. Purple Urkel has passed along a set of traits that promote indoor or stealth cultivation and thrives in temperate growing environments. So that is Jawa juice from Ocean Grown Seeds. Shout out to Vader OG, of course.
Man, I love weed.
Yep, it is really cool. Weed is really cool.
You know, I know a couple people who are growers and they're actually allergic to it after years of being for terps. Like just little white rashes. I mean, your body does acclimate to things.
Hey, did you see that news out of the Denver Post?
I did.
Let's talk about what's going on in Denver.
Denver hotel to open cannabis smoking lounge in 2022.
Nice.
The Patterson Inn was recently the first and only business to apply for the newly available hospitality license. First and only.
First and only. Isn't that amazing that it only one is applied, but maybe it has to do with like the ridiculous amount of compliance or other regulations that you'd have to do. Anyway,
I don't know, man. Look at this one. This picture says I got money.
The city began accepting applications from folks who want to run smoking lounges and Amsterdam-esque gathering places or run bus tours, which is sometimes a glaring hole in omission that is just not getting regulated in Chicago, where consumers are able to consume cannabis on premises. And the only one that it's applied so far, according to the director of Denver's Department of Excise and Licenses, is Chris Chiari, owner of the Capitol Hill Bed and Breakfast, the Patterson Inn.
I can't believe only one person. Chari's familiar with the cannabis industry.
Well, think about all the chains, all the corporate chains. I bet the corporate chains that own, and then how many of those hotels in any given municipality, whether it's Denver, LA, Seattle, Chicago, how many of those are owned by like either state real estate investment trusts or really, really stodgy old people?
No, I get that. Yeah, you're right. And it's funny though, because like here in Seattle, the law says it's a state law. It's an ordinance where it's up to the hotel discretion if they want to have cannabis in consumption in the hotel. So, which is funny because like cigarettes are straight up no, but cannabis, the hotels have the option. But also, I think about the before times, like when things were really cool out here. We had this place called Frankie's, R.I.P. to the owner, and what he did was he owned the land that his bar was on, and he turned the upstairs into a cannabis consumption area where you had to pay $1 to be a member into the private party club.
Neat.
And then you can. Is that it? Java juice?
Yeah.
Nice.
Java juice. Good
call, Sid. But like that, we had consumption lounges here before. It bothers me that the stigma is so strong that like, well, we don't know what we're getting into. You know what you're getting into is absolutely nothing. Just like we're going to find with the DUI laws. Like you get mass consumers, the world doesn't change. The skies don't start, planes don't start crashing. Cars don't get deliriously off the road.
But I still say that there's got to be a line somewhere where people just they perform worse behind the wheel. I don't know where that line is, but we should study it, and then we should study it without by saying that there needs to be a line. They're already defining it, and they're going to try to be as risk averse as possible. But then at least they should have a reason for the line as opposed to because.
But see, we've been doing the whole risk averse thing this whole time, right? With prohibition. This is why we're fucking blacklisted and all the other just stigma things that
there's
really
only 130 people watching as opposed to more because it's like, don't allow this. And it's interesting. Like our suggested videos, like just crashed over the course of the past 4 months. But then, YouTube's doing YouTube. That's cool. It can do its thing. But man, if they don't want your message getting out, it doesn't.
What I mean, it's really like, what message are you preventing? Because all we're talking about is
it's going to happen anyway. Now, do you want this to happen with a well-informed public, or do you want this to happen as people are just going to make a land grab and try to make as much money for themselves and keep people ignorant and in the dark?
That's a good thing too. But this is why prohibition has done nothing but failed us. It has nothing but failed its citizens. That's all it comes down to. Yeah. It hasn't done any good. Like, show me on a doll where marijuana has hurt you. Like, but I can show you one doll where prohibition has hurt all the citizens and advancement of our like how many people who could have solved cancer, didn't get college funds or, got denied, or how many families were separated and traumatized. There's a lot of things you can go over about this prohibition, but none of it's good.
Right. But I mean, is there a difference between THC in the blood and then edibles metabolized in the blood? So like you're going to have different types of cannabinoids that will be present depending on your methodology of imbibing the substance, which would be interesting.
I mean, that's what we talk about, right? There's stuff, but again, it's 5 nanograms. Like, it's got to be so much more. The actual number that says, okay, you got this like thought paralysis or whatever it is you're trying to. The problem is, I think with THC, it's been categorized as psychoactive, and people think automatically like you're gonna do crazy shit because it's psychoactive.
Yeah, but that is our lead story of the week. Was the Senator Hickenlooper had called for a national THC DUI standard when he was interviewing the Joe Biden's pick to run the National Highway Transport Safety Administration. So, how do you think that it should be regulated? Leave that in the comments and tag people that have an opinion on this matter.
Definitely. Yeah. Give us some insight.
Yeah, man. Give us some insight.
One last thing I saw, I came across was this TED Talk.
TED Talk?
The TED Talk on December 17th, 2021. Title is How Cannabis Can Feed 10 Billion People by 2050 by Schwen Spangol. And I listened to the TED Talk, and it really just talks about, like, for one, the diversity of cannabis, how it's fiber, it's protein, it's a medicine, it's industrial oil, right? So that alone about the amazing properties of the plant. But what he was talking about though is like, if we study, the more we know about cannabis and how the plant itself, right? Like how we can get hemp and marijuana from the same seed, how we can get CBDs and CBGs and all this other stuff from it, and the cannabinoids and how they affect us. Well, then we can transfer that knowledge to like tomatoes and other stuff that to be grown in just as arduous. Because also we talked about how cannabis also absorbs the soil, and it's a great treatment for the soil. It's an amazing plant that most people. It's the biggest conspiracy theory, man. If
Yeah, well, here's one that's gonna get a little bit better. We have some stock news. Pot stocks have absolutely gotten shellacked lately. If anybody owns some, you have less money now if you exit the trade. But MedMen has to give up controlling interest of its New York medical operations to Ascend Wellness Holdings, another multi-state operator with the Ozone brand. I'm not sure if you've seen the Ozone brand. That is Ascend Wellness. But the board granted approval of the $73 million investment pending review by the state's Office of Cannabis Management, that is the OCM. It's also required that Ascend maintain MedMen's current level of patient access and supply. Very interesting aspect about the regulations when you're in medical cannabis, the adequate supply amounts. And so when you're doing your budgets and your pro formas and your expectations for revenue numbers, you'd use adequate supply times number of patients equals how many ounces of weed you need. But they have to maintain. It's the compliance. It's like, well, this is how many patients that are registered that you need to support. Don't forget to grow the maximum amount for that. And that's one of the reasons why there's so much oil of that, and people make mistakes.
Well,
and then it becomes oil.
And again, it's an agriculture product, right? Like, it's a plant that the expectations, you can't. It's hard to say I'm going to have 100% yield. Spider mites, bad. Stress, things happen to the plants. But in Illinois, they recently posted a thing on Instagram. They talked about how the limiting the license only enables the MSOs. It doesn't help anybody, like the common citizen. So,
so that was reported in a editorial out of MJ Business Daily. Oops, let me get that into this, and I can put that on the screen. So MJ Business Daily has an editorial by a Van McConnon. How do you pronounce that one? Do you think there, Minnie?
I think you're right, bro.
Van McConnon. All right.
Yeah.
And this is a story that's a part of a recurring series and from professionals connected to the cannabis industry. Van McConnon, based in Boulder, has been growing, selling, and processing cannabis for 35 years and been in the legal and not legacy market since 2009. And so he is pointing toward cannabis legalization over the various states. And Oregon and Oklahoma have one way. If you want a license, you get a license in the state. Everybody can grow if they want to. Giving your neighborhood a mason jar full of weed in the fall becomes the new normal. The licensed businesses make a good living, quality is generally high, and consumers have many choices. Much of that country has access to legal cannabis, so why is the unregulated market still the dominant market? It's like, do you know what percentage of the market still is buying in the traditional market?
I imagine a huge portion still.
It's about 2/3 to 3/4.
Yeah.
So 2/3 to 3/4 of the market is still this not licensed market. And he then blames what? This limited licensing.
Oh, he's got a point.
Yeah. Well, look at the limited license states: Illinois, Florida, New York, Ohio, New Jersey, Nevada, maybe your state soon here.
Well, my state for sure. I can't get a license.
Washington, you can't get a license.
Yeah, they're closed. That's the thing too, is when they do this beginning of the markets, they never say, "Here's your only chance." That was, if I knew that was the only chance to fucking get in the market.
Why do you think I'm telling you? You're getting in Jersey, man. You and I are going to apply as a conditional 1B. We need somebody in Jersey to be our 20% of our substantially related person. And I recommend it is the most connected lawyer that's a minority that we can find in New Jersey that wants at least 20% of the license. Maybe more, because you have to have 50%, 50.1% technically.
Well, and then once Jersey gets locked in, dude, that East Coast market is going to be a growing culture, because once New York, all these interconnected states, Pennsylvania needs to go.
I think you should open a dispo. I think Miggy's dispensary would be a friendly, welcoming place that people would go to.
Oh yeah, dude. I'd want it very clean, very, very nuanced with I would like a lounge. God damn it! I want to be able to just smoke with people and hang out.
Yeah. Well, I can't. You can do that in Illinois. The revenue numbers that you need to hit to provide, though, it's different. And then you're in Illinois,
Oh
not
yeah.
Seattle.
Well, that's the thing too, right? You got to. It's a business, so you can't just like walk away from it.
Yes, that's correct. You just can't walk away from it. But they are blaming this limited market for the result is big weed. For example, we were just talking about what Ascend Wellness. And remember, the Cannabis Control Board said on Thursday that the license has to give up 86% of its business to privately held Ascend Wellness. And how many cannabis licenses are in New York? 10.
Damn.
Cannabis licenses in New York. Out of a state with 20 million people, 10 are there. And that's one of the reasons why he thinks the illicit market is still all over there, because of this big weed market and there's New York right there on his mentions.
I would also I would say I also would label this under the no shit Sherlock category, because like, I mean, this we're talking about like Walmart versus like mom and pops. Walmart's got the advantage because they got the extra the funding, and they can buy in bulk and do things way
Right.
towards the advantage of their thing. But
and then here's what they say that is causing this illicit market. But California's illicit market, 8 billion. Nearly double of the regular market of 4.4. And so like it's about 2/3, if a third of it's legal, a little bit more than a third, 4.4, and then another 8 billion. Of course, maybe it's a little bit higher than 8 billion. Maybe it's a little lower because that one doesn't keep records, but would that stuff be able to be exported from California if there was a marketplace with the style of an Oklahoma or an Oregon? Because Oregon still has, well, then Oregon's illicit market would also be fueled by the limited market states and the limited license states that support like Ascend Wellness or other publicly traded cannabis companies.
well, and they're trying to figure out now in Oklahoma how to corral that in. So keep your eyes out, Oklahoma. Fight the good fight. But I don't know if they're going to be able to like corral it in. Why would they though? I mean, I think people see a lot of people having successful living, making a good income, and then they figure out, well, that's not right. That's not. You don't deserve that. F you. People are good business people. If the only way you can be successful with the
People
plant,
are also petty jerks.
yeah.
And some people like to watch other people get hurt. They do. I mean, like, if people didn't like to watch other people getting hurt, America's Funniest Home Videos would have lasted 2 episodes. That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that milk crate challenge would not have gone viral because it would be like, oh, that man really hurt himself.
But like,
Jackass wouldn't have had 3 sequels, But
we talk about like people who like to watch people get hurt. I mean, you're actually talking about real masochists when watching people fail in an industry where they should be just let the fuck alone, right? There should be an option, a chance, not every other rule against you and trying to, make you a new like business minority. It's ridiculous how you're subjugated to.
Yeah, subjugation. I'm getting some of that for Christmas. Tell you what, hopefully you're gonna get some decent things, and you have the family coming over. Here we are, past the solstice, which is great. So now it's only going to get brighter from here until about June 20th.
That's not too bad. I think you're in the best part of Christmas, dude. Your little one's still little. Like, that's the best part. You can takes not a lot to make it look like a big deal for them.
Yeah, we just got the little one a new car seat because she's gotten so big. So she's too big for the infant one now. She needs the toddler-y one. And she is more interested with the box than anything else that you could have done. And so it's like, yeah, the box, it's like this thing that protects her comes with a free toy, a box.
Yeah. I love it, dude. Yeah, all my guys are too old for that, but it's gonna be one of those. For me, they're almost all out, so it's cool just to have like a hangout and have a dinner and just be with the fam. Because Christmas on Saturday, maybe not. We'll probably gather on Sunday because who knows what our families want us to do.
So, yep. Who knows what our families want us to do? But I wanted to give out I'm thankful for the gift of all of our members that have joined and helped the channel out. We give, and I think we're going to turn a profit this month, so we'll be able to donate the proceeds that we got to some of the prisoners that are there, so that they get some commissary while they're still waiting for Joe Biden to let them out of prison. And anyway, hopefully everybody has like a really great Christmas, and see you later, man.
Hey, Merry Christmas, New Year, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Shalom, bitches.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out more of a way to wrap these things up, because the evening news, they don't just say like whatever, bro, and then leave. So we should do something to like kind of like wrap these suckers up.
We don't have a cool saying like PCM.
Well, we also don't have a budget.